Christ Mass and then observe all the same old pagan stuff and just say, but it's really Christian. It frustrates me when I hear, and I know this will be controversial, but I've always shied away from controversy. It really bothers me to hear Christian people say, let's put Christ back into Christmas. I understand what they're saying. They're complaining that the commercialism of Christmas has taken away the religious element of Christmas. And I understand what they're saying. Let's refocus back on the importance of Christmas as Christ. But Christ was never in the Christ Mass. It was a pagan holiday. Rather than the church rallying around, let's put Christ back into Christmas, the church really ought to rally around, let's put Christianity back in our calendar. And let's take this Christ Mass paganism and set it aside, which, again, won't happen because the American culture and economy won't ever allow it. Ralph Woodrow, in his book Babylon, Mystery Religion, writes, "The feast of Christmas was the most vile, immoral feast that ever disgraced pagan Rome. It was a season of license, drunkenness, and debauchery, when all restraints of law were laid aside." Hislop goes on to write, "The feast of Saturn lasted 5 days. Loose reins were given to drunkenness and revelry. Slaves had a temporary emancipation, and they used all manner of freedoms with their masters. This was precisely the way in which, according to Berosus, that the drunken festival in the month of Thebeth, T-H-E-B-E-T-H, would you pronounce that? Thebeth, any idea? Answering to our December, in other words, the festival of Bacchus, from which we get the word Bacchanalia, which means drunken festival orgy, happened on December 25th each year, and that again are the roots of Christmas." T.G. Crippen wrote a book in 1923 called Christmas and Christmas Lore. Look it up. He writes, "Now in December and the beginning of January, there were several festivals which were intimately associated with the daily life of the Roman people. First, from the 17th to the 21st of December was the Saturnalia, the great Roman holiday. One might call it the Feast of Topsy-Turvydom, when slaves were allowed a few days to enjoy the semblance of freedom, and they were waited upon by their masters, and they chose from among themselves a mock king to preside over their revelry. Next, on the 22nd of December, came Sigillaria, which was the Feast of Dolls, when a fair was held, and dolls and other toys, mostly earthenware, were given to children. Then on the 25th came Brumalia, otherwise it was called Dies Natalis Invicti Solus, the birthday of the unconquered sun, S-U-N. When the days began to lengthen right after the winter solstice, it is believed to have been instituted by the Emperor Aurelian in honor of Mithra, the Persian sun god." This is our history. Okay, want to talk about the Christmas tree?
Sure.
This will make you not want a tree anymore. Are you okay with that? Okay. I'm just going to keep pulling rugs out from under your traditions.
You're only mistletoe. That's
Oh, I haven't gotten to mistletoe yet.
That's called an edit.
But that seems to get the whole party started. I just don't know.
Hislop writes, "The Christmas tree, now so common among us, was equally common in pagan Rome and in pagan Egypt. In Egypt, that tree was usually a palm tree. In Rome, it was a fir tree, as we use today. The palm tree denoted the pagan Messiah, Baal Tamar. The fir tree referred to him as Baal Berith. The mother of Adonis, the sun god, and the great mediatorial divinity, was mystically said to have changed into a tree, and when in that state, to have brought forth her divine son. If the mother was a tree, then the son must have been recognized as man the branch. And this entirely accounts for the putting of a Yule log into the fire on Christmas Eve and the appearance of the Christmas tree the next morning." He goes on to write on page 98 of his book, "Therefore, the 25th of December, the day that was observed at Rome as the day of the victorious God reappearing on earth, was held as the Natalis Invicti Solus, the birthday of the unconquered sun. Now the Yule log is the dead stock of Nimrod, deified as the sun god, but cut down by his enemies, and the Christmas tree is Nimrod redivivus, the slain god come to life again." That's what the Christmas tree always represented, It's just that we Christianized it in some peculiar way and said it is a sign of everlasting life. But the ancient carvings of Nimrod, ancient wood carvings of Nimrod, usually have him holding a fir tree, a sign of everlasting life. And those images of Nimrod are usually of a man with a long white beard. We'll get to him. Yes, son?
Okay, so we know the mistake we made about the tree. Is God mad, or does he understand that this was all just a big misunderstanding?
Let me do all this and then answer that question to wrap up, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So the Yule log represented a piece of Nimrod who had been cut into many pieces by his enemies. Then he was deified as the sun god by those who loved him. The Yule log as Nimrod was put into the fire on Christmas Eve, and with a miraculous birth, the Christmas tree appears the next day. The tree represents Tammuz. It was claimed that this child was the rebirth of his father Nimrod, who was now a god. Similarly, the mistletoe is called the man of the branch, and the wreath is known as a sun wheel. Why do you think wreaths of mistletoe were always round? They're in the shape of the sun. They're called sun wheels in ancient Babylon. Nimrod is also mentioned in the Bible. He established the first great city of Babel, which is the foundation of Babylon. And then he established other cities, including the Assyrian cities. Genesis 10, 8-11 gives the account of all that. And it was his leadership that resulted, by the way, in God confusing all the languages of the world because he himself wanted to become deified. And so what have humans done? Deified him. The word Yule means infant in the languages of the Chaldeans, who lived in the Middle East. The Germanic tribes of Northern Europe, including the Anglo-Saxons, celebrated the Yule Day or the Child's Day. Ralph Woodrow writes in his book, Babylon, Mystery Religion, an old Babylonian fable went like this. Semiramis, the mother of Tammuz, claimed that overnight an evergreen tree sprang up from a dead tree stump. The dead stump supposedly symbolized her dead husband Nimrod. The new evergreen tree was a symbol that Nimrod had come to life again in the person of Tammuz. This idea spread and developed so that the various nations all have had their legends about sacred trees. Among the Druids, the oak was sacred. Among the Egyptians, it was the palm tree. And in Rome, it was the fir tree, which was decorated with red berries during the Saturnalia. According to the Scandinavians, the fir tree is the sacred emblem of their god Odin, sometimes called Woden, after whom we have a day in the middle of the week, Woden's Day, which is why Wednesday is spelled so weirdly as it made its way down to us. In Europe, the Saxons used to offer a boar in sacrifice to the sun to propitiate the Queen of Heaven on Christmas Day. The boar in pagan mythology was supposed to have slain the false pagan Messiah. The boar was also a major article in the feast of Saturn at Rome, and the boar's head is still a standing dish in England as a Christmas dinner. Yes, ma'am?
You just put two things together that I've never heard put together before.
Okay.
Pagan Messiah.
Tammuz is considered the pagan Messiah by the fact that he is a child of the sun. He is God incarnate walking on planet Earth. But whenever you say the word, since you've brought that up, what does the word anti mean? Do you know? Huh? Against or substitute. Right. And so when we talk in the Bible about anti-Christ, what does the word Christ mean? Messiah. Right. Substitute Messiah, anti-Messiah. Even the Bible talks about pagan Messiahs or pagan Christ, anti-Christ. So it's not a completely foreign concept, which is why Woodrow would use that kind of language.
And pagans aren't the same as atheists, like they still believe, right?
Oh, they believe. They just believe wrong things.
Right.
Yeah, sure. Everybody believes something. Everybody believes something. The worst atheist on the planet has a very firm set of beliefs that he is very convinced of, and he believes those things. His set of beliefs just doesn't include the idea of a Christian God. But he does believe in something bigger than himself because he knows he's alive and the universe exists. So, but you know that my concept is that true atheism doesn't exist anyway. There can be Gnosticism, but true atheism, you'd have to be born, grow, and never have the